hope your month is going well. This month we're talking about classroom management. And to me, classroom management means creating and sustaining a classroom environment that's conducive to providing learning, the best learning experience for all. And in teaching ESL, there are particular challenges. For example, cultural norms might be different, or maybe the students have never even had classroom experience. So in this video, we'll talk about some principles that can help create that safe learning environment that encourages all students to learn. What we should talk about is planning and preparation. And the first step of my planning is choosing my lesson objectives. That is, what do I want students to be able to do by the end of the lesson? And then choosing my activities that help me meet those lesson objectives. If students see that there's a connection and that it's clear what they're going to get out of an activity, they're much more likely to be engaged in that activity. Secondly, preparation is really important here. I need to make sure I have all of my copies made, all of my materials ready, so that there aren't gaps of time where students can get distracted and off task. What I need to think about when I'm lesson planning is how I'm going to sequence the activities. Firstly, making sure that I'm scaffolding appropriately, moving from more support to less support, so that students, when we get to the more difficult activities, they know how to do those activities already. And also making sure that I'm using a mix of kinds of activities so that I'm not always just doing worksheets or readings. I'm also doing active activities like standing up and talking, or TPR, or dialogues, or role play, that I have a balance of those kinds of activities to keep students engaged and interested. Clear expectations are also very, very important to classroom management. Students do best when they know exactly what's expected of them. So that can mean, for example, giving really clear, really simple directions for all of my activities and always modeling exactly what I want the students to do. It can also mean establishing norms at the beginning of the session. Rather than coming in with a list of rules, ask your students, what do you want from your classmates? What makes a good classmate? And I guarantee that they'll say things like, be on time, be respectful, listen, be patient, things like that. So then they generate those ideas, we list them together on the board, and then they have buy-in on those classroom norms. For classroom management, it's very important to consider your classroom space. Can all of the students see? Can all of the students hear? Can you move around easily? Can they move around easily? And a very important component of this is called proximity control. And that is how you move around your classroom space. For example, when a student is answering a question or asking a question, try to walk away from that student, because that's going to make the student speak louder. Often our tendency is to go closer to that student, but that just makes the student speak more quietly. So walk away from the student who's speaking. That'll make them speak up. And then in order to make everybody hear, make sure to repeat what the student is saying. Similarly, if there's someone who is doing something undesirable, like texting or chatting, you can just move over towards that person without interrupting class or calling them out. Just go stand near that person, and that will likely get them to reduce the activity or quit the activity. It would be helpful to develop a teaching persona. My personality in the classroom is not exactly the same as my personality outside of the classroom. I have this kind of teacher Kate. And it can be helpful to think of teachers that you've had in the past who really influenced you, and sort of integrate pieces of their personality. So my teacher persona, for example, is drawn from Mrs. Robertson and Mrs. Berthold and myself. So we become Teacher Kate. Another thing that is really important when you feel confident is to just fake it till you make it. And students will see you as confident, and they'll be more likely to listen. It's useful, and I hope that they help create safe, supportive learning environments that maximize learning opportunities for all students. Have a great month.